The country is at war with ice. Two different types of ice. In the south, we got real ice, snow, snowmageddon, ice, sleet. It just stopped snowing like 2 hours ago. Um, and then up north, you got the dummies that are just fighting. They're fighting ice in the ice. So they got a double, a double fight going on up there with that. And I don't know about y'all, but I don't want a civil war. That's not what I want at all. But there are people in the country that it doesn't matter. Well, it does matter who's in office to them, but if it's somebody on the right that's in office, they're just gonna always be at odds, and that's the fault of universities pushing for leftists, Marxist type of agendas. And I've said that a lot. I mean, that's kind of a beating on an old drum, but that is the issue that's going on in this country, and I don't know how it's fixed apart from basically if if Trump is trying to show the country how bad the leftists really are, then he needs to work on also try not to do some of the things that have happened with ICE. I mean, a lot of these guys, they are federal agents, so they're going to be tougher than just regular cops who the left already hates as it is. Um, so I know that they're being constantly antagonized by these protesters, and now they're being marked, they're being doxxed where they were attacked, and then just basically interfered with nonstop by these college idiots, college educated idiots. So it's a problem. And if Trump really is trying to show people that they are the problem and not the agenda, that he has to be out there every single day, saying showing this. The media is only going to show the bad stuff that happens with ICE, with what they do. Uh, every time an illegal gets hurt or basically just captured in general, they're going to broadcast that on the news. And now it's two people being killed by ICE agents who are just American citizens. And so it's one thing if it's ICE killing illegals accidentally because maybe they are trying to not be arrested or they are avoiding arrest in general. Um, but the problem is I don't really know how else it can be resolved besides letting it just almost happen, and that's not what I want either. But it seems like that's almost what maybe Trump is doing. It seems like is maybe just poking the bear a little bit, and that's what they're doing to the left. They're poking the big bear. They're poking the big bear. So one side will eventually actually do the act that starts the stuff that I don't want to happen. And that I would agree that I would assume 90% of the country, 99% probably, maybe. I'm not even sure anymore. But hopefully, the majority of the country does not want to go down the path of some type of civil war in the country because that's retarded. When you've got people who, for the last 25, 30 years, have been basically marching, protesting the first two amendments in the Bill of Rights, freedom of speech, which they have said needs to have bumpers. That's a quote from Hillary Clinton. This is on her second run, I think, saying that there needs to be guardrails to speech or something like that. And I think that she was saying that because of whatever that law is, the title, whatever that allows people to say things that are violent or anti-government, whatever things that the left doesn't agree with on these social media platforms. I believe that she was saying that in regards to that bill that keeps social media companies from being liable to what is being said on their platforms. But still, if you're advocating for guardrails to speech, that means you're not entirely in support of the First Amendment or free speech in general. And I do think, that there are things that should not be said. We shouldn't be able to say everything, like, hey, I want to go and, boom, 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 somebody. That shouldn't be allowed. And even if they're not going to act on it, then you are still making a threat to somebody's life. And that is what, the left has also, that one of their buzz phrases for the forever has been, you can't yell fire in a crowded theater. So to them, there is not really a freedom. There is not free speech. But when a right winger is in office or whatever, they're saying that their First Amendment rights are being threatened. And then the Second Amendment. I mean, it's not even like a wild venture to say that they've been actively trying to get rid of that one. That's not even that's not even a controversial thing to say. Shit, a little smoky. It's burning. It's a little better. So, but they've been trying to get rid of the Second Amendment for 30 plus years. Um, but now it's become their biggest ally because the whole point of it is you're using your Second Amendment right to counter a tyrannical government. And for the last 10 years, they've been saying that Trump is a tyrant, and now a tyrant that's propping up oligarchs, Elon Musk, anybody that's a millionaire, billionaire, whatever. Um, they're basically just they've been laying the blueprint down to give them the justification to actively go against the federal government that they have been saying the right, the hillbillies in the mountains, that they were going to be the ones to do that, not the peaceful leftists that are college educated, the open minded people that you can talk about anything to and they will not lose their minds about. Which I think we've seen that's a fucking lie. um, but I mean, that shows you how great that those first two amendments are because, I mean, it gives everybody the right to, even though you might not think it's right in one circumstance, but to them it seems justified to them that they are trying to counter a tyrannical government. But that's also because of the constant ideology, the constant narratives that they've been fed by their politicians, by their basically politicians and media and just college professors in general. Who knows what they talk about in college? Because we're only getting to see what these dummies will actively post freely at their own will on TikTok, and the things that they will say, the things that they say that they will do to eyes, to the government, to right wingers. They're not afraid to use their First Amendment and not their Second Amendment now, which I mean, it's kind of interesting to see the big change that they've made over the last, just not even the last 5 years with the Second Amendment. But it's also, there's a big difference between the two parties and how they view what a tyrannical government is. So the left side is what we're seeing now, which is in their eyes an oligarch, no, oh no, no, a tyrant, a dictator, a king who is doing the will of the people that voted him into power, who is using the laws on the books to remove the illegals from the country, which is his duty, his job, and to in their eyes because of the colleges and what they keep hearing for the last 10 years, uh, after Trump won the first time. For whatever reason, they just flipped on the dime and went after um, or not went after, but viewed enforcing laws on the books as tyrannical, which makes no sense. And on the right, we have free, the the right's view of what the tyrannical government is a government that wants to get rid of the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, and anything that just basically gives up your power to the government itself. And that is a actual reason to want to go after or counter the government. Not not the way the left sees it, but the way the right sees it is more justified in my eyes. But I'm not. I haven't been brainwashed to think that upholding laws that are in the books. I haven't been brainwashed to that extent to think that that is a tyrannical move. But I can understand why these people see it like that. God, it's burning hot tonight. Take a coal off of there. And thankfully, the Civil War, whatever you want to call it, the retaliation between the left and the government is happening basically almost in Canada, far away from normal Americans, because most of the people up north probably are more aligned with Canada's views, anyways, and they've also just moved in a ton of migrants, immigrants from Somalia. Minneapolis is the number one city in the country for Somali refugees, immigrants, migrants, whatever the hell they want to call them, asylum seekers. And they can use those words to bypass the laws in the books about immigrants, migration, or whatever, because it essentially gave the government the right to, the last administration, the right to designate people from different countries as refugees because they're fleeing oppression in their countries and moving to a country that's less oppressive. And then, which doesn't make sense too, because the people that are calling this administration the most oppressive, apparently it isn't, because all these people still want to come here. It doesn't matter who's in office. Millions of people every year want to come to America to live in the least oppressive country on earth. They want to flee their probably shithole countries if they're wanting to flee so badly, and infiltrate these cities across America and turn them into the cities and countries that they fled from. So I'm just anti-war. I'm anti um, violence. I want peace. Anybody that doesn't want that, they're the problem, not me. I think that's pretty justified thing to say, a justified view to have. Because I like electricity. I like going out and participating in capitalism, which is amazing. You used to be able to go to Walmart whenever the hell you wanted to, up until 2020, and then just made it to where Walmart's only open from 6 to 10 o'clock or whatever. But we still live in a capitalist society where you can go buy anything you want whenever you want. Everybody somehow just has money to spend, and the country is in what, $35 trillion worth of debt. It's just all. It seems like it's just all a damn. I don't even know, mirage, or one day it's all gonna come tumbling down. Uh, and I don't know how it gets fixed, but I'm just another person with a camera in front of him and a mic with another podcast to save the world. Maybe that's maybe that's how the world will be saved. Is like is every white guy just has a podcast. Maybe that's how we save the country, which I doubt it. And there was a deal I saw earlier too on X. 0 hour. I don't know who that tag is or who that account belongs to on X, but they had broken into the Telegram accounts or the Telegram messages of all these anti-ICE people and basically look like doxed them all, which I am anti-doxing, but when you have people that are actively calling against the federal government and calling to kill these people, then yeah, you should dox them and they should be held accountable to the fullest extent of the law. And like I said at the beginning, I think Trump is poking the bear to get them to do something, to get the leftists to do something, so that in his eyes, they're justified in actually doing more to combat these people than they have. And his track record in the past wasn't the greatest, during the BLM riots. Nobody, I'm sure, leftists in Minnesota got pissed when Walz called the National Guard in to quell the rioting up there. But when Trump does it, when it actually, I think he already since no, that was the state still. I think Tim already unleashed some of the state National Guard there in Minneapolis. But if Trump were to do it, if he hasn't already, then that's when shit will go down. And I've said it a long time ago, and it's lost in the ether of X, Rumble, wherever I put it at. That I feel like what Trump's goal is the same goal, the same kind of agenda, or the same blueprint that Bukele had in his country, where he went after all the corruption, supposedly, and all the people that were basically just holding that country back, destroying the country, that basically left his people down south. And he just used his full power to go after all of it. And supposedly he is the most loved leader in the country. And then people on the left will say, "Well, yeah, well, so is Kim Jong Un, and in his country, he has a 99% approval rating or whatever." Same with Russia, so they have two dictators to point to and say the same thing for those countries, because I guess in their eyes, either the polling process is not true, which it probably isn't. Well, I mean, I know it's not, especially in North Korea. Um, but it might not be the case too. They might actually think that Kim Jong Un is their Lord and Savior, which I think that they do believe that. I think that when they're like I'm pretty sure they said that they thought that Kim Jong Un poop. Wait, no, that he didn't poop. He did not poop because he's a god. Basically, so he probably can't bleed. I guess they assume that too. So he can't shit. He's a god somehow. And then with Putin, it's an actual dictator. I think their whole economy is basically just a military economy. Um, but what Trump's gonna do is my view. I think he's going after the Bukele blueprint, and one day, once it warms up, the protests, the rioting will amp up, and it won't just be up in Minneapolis. It'll be like it was in 2020 with the BLM riots. It'll be in all the major cities once again, and it's not going to be as it was bad then, but this time it's a lot worse. And he will finally do something about it. And another one of my theories about that with the Bukele blueprint, since there's a pretty strong possibility that the Republicans, the right, are not going to win the midterms, especially the way that they're being viewed with the immigration issues. So the media has already skewed the viewers, the voters, away from the right with their presentation, with their uh, airing of how, and then also their opinions in the news uh, of how ICE is operating, only showing the terrible things and not showing the terrible people that are being taken out of the country in their eyes, in the leftist eyes. All of these immigrants, migrants, whatever their best phrase is for the people that are immigrants in their eyes, they think that they're all safe. They're all law abiding, even though they're illegally. They still think that these most of these people are the law abiding citizens that the media will tell them that they are. And with saying that Trump and the right, well, the right in general, is going to lose the midterms, my theory is that, you know, so let me backtrack a second. They said that Trump in 2020 that he would not step down from power because he's the dictator, even though he still did. But the left also had a good justification of saying that while it was happening because of the idiots at Jan 6, um, this time I feel like in these midterms there will be there won't be an election. There won't be midterm elections. That will be it's going to be martial law. That's a pretty that's a pretty bold theory, a bold statement to make, especially as for me as somebody that voted for Trump. But I think that that's what's going to happen. I believe that they've already destroyed with tariffs, the ICE issue, mainly those two things right there, that that has destroyed the right's ability to win the midterms, and that already happens anyways. As far as the way that the voting system goes, the way that the voting habits go, it might be an all left or an all right party that wins, like it was this last election, 2024. All the right Republicans won everything. And then in the midterms, they always lose the House or Senate, one of the two. And in this case, it would probably be both. And when that happens, it's going to stop anything that Trump is wanting to do, trying to do, things that he probably should have just, went in like a bull in the china shop and just did it as fast as he could. He already went through all those executive orders, and I mean, I'm not sure how far or how much power those really give him as far as what he can do with them. In the left side, it's basically that's why they call him a dictator or a tyrant. Is that these executive orders can counter everything, which I'm not really sure if they do that. But the main issue is that I believe that martial law will come into effect, and it'll be about the same time, like at least a couple months prior to that, is when the riots will start up. It'll be in the spring. Who knows how long they last? But the martial law process might last longer than the riots because they're just going to go into these major cities using federal troops and just take out, not killing, but getting rid of, putting these leftists that are calling for the violence, hopefully locking them up. Um, and that's, it's not going to be pretty. That's that's the main thing to think about. And now I'll switch topics away from, well, away from Trump and politics. Well, not entirely away from politics in general, but Trump and ICE and stuff like that. Uh, but the Oscars, I guess they're coming up sometime soon, and the movie that has had, the record for most Oscar nominations, Sinners. Uh, and I was really looking forward to that movie when the trailer first popped up. I was like, this is gonna be great. It's gonna be a great movie. And when people were seeing it in theaters, I just kept hearing mixed reviews about it. And I was just like, yeah, I'll wait till I see it, and then I'll tell you, because my opinion matters. uh, but then I waited till it came out on HBO Max or whatever it was and watched it. And it's a good movie, but it's not worth being nominated, the most nominated movie of all time. That is for sure not the movie to be picked. Um, it's a movie that I would say like a quarter of the movie is about the vampires. Okay, and the whole point of the movie is it's supposed to be a horror movie. The majority of it is just two black twin brothers that want to. There might be some spoilers, so if you don't want to hear that part, then just skip away if you're even watching this. It's just two twin black brothers that they came back from Chicago or some big city back in the day, the 20s or whatever the time frame was, and they worked for the mafia or mob, whatever. And they're coming back to their bayou town in the deep south where all the racist white people live at, and they're wanting to change. They want to lift up the black community, which cool, yeah, do it. And so what they decide to do is they want to open up. I'm pretty sure it was an illegal. They want to open up a club and have the drinking and dancing. And using their cousin, I think, which he is a good singer if that's his voice. But using him, to kind of get people to come into the club because his voice is great. I mean, he has a good song, he has a good voice, so they're trying to lure people in with him as their front man. Um, and then that's when the vampires come in. Maybe like they have some spots where it's showing you that they're coming, but they finally come into the movie when the brothers get the brothel, or not the brothel, but the bar, the club going in this like random barn that they are renting out from this racist white dude in the South. And so then they open the bar up, and all the black people in the community come, and they're all partying and stuff. And then there's like a 20-minute long scene where it's showing the black culture that's inside of this the singer, and it's just 20 minutes of just going around the dance club, and it's showing all the history of dance and singing and everything else within the black history of how they dance and sing. And it's becoming a woke movie at that point. It already is, but it's becoming an agenda at that point of what the movie is actually about. It's not about vampires. It's about racism, as it usually always is. And so the whole time it's just they're stuck in the club because the vampires end up surrounding it. They get after some of the black people, turning them into vampires too, and they surround the club and they can't come in because the whole rule of a vampire is you can't go inside of a place, a home or whatever, unless you're invited into it. And so you can't invite racism in unless you open the doors for it. I guess that's the metaphor for that. Um, and then it's just the last half of the movie is just them inside the club, still trying to get outside, figure out how to get out. Some of them come in, some of the dummies go outside, they get fooled, and then my favorite scene was the racist, the racist vampires, the white people, when they're just like randomly just have I'm not even sure what you would call it, like the main vampire guy's Irish or Scottish, one of the two, and they just go into a random little song and dance out front of the club, and I was like, it was very out of place, but it was to me like one of the coolest scenes in the movie was that part there. But I'm just a racist white guy, I guess that's why I think it's cool. Not, but then when you watch the trailer, it just looked like it was going to be non-stop action. But in the trailers, every single cool scene of the movie was in the trailer, and it kept showing the scene, with Michael B. Jordan with the Tommy gun, walking like a badass shooting, and I was like, yes, gangsters, vampires, and Bayou. It sounds like a great movie. Well, the Tommy gun scene is the last 15 minutes of the movie, and Michael B. Jordan is just taking down all the racist white people that are that are coming to kill not the vampires, but the racist white people in general coming to kill the two twin brothers, because they're racist and they want to kill black people, I guess. And so like 20 to 30 white dudes show up, they're all ready to just come after and lynch these guys. And then Michael B. Jordan just comes out there with the Tommy gun and just blows them all away. And he ends up dying. But that's how the movie ends, as far as I can remember. And then there's like the last scene, like one of the brothers survives because he gets turned, and he's coming, whatever. Not, it's not worth the most nominated Oscar movie of all time. That is a fact. And another movie, I don't think it's out yet, but it's coming out. If it is not yet, like I said, but it's with one of the Skarsgård brothers, not the one that played the It clown, but the other one, the sexy one. Whichever Skarsgård that one is. Is it Alex? I don't remember. But I think the movie's called like Palion. I'm not really sure how you say it, but it looks like it's just another LGBT movie, and it's they weren't hiding what the what their agenda was in that movie like at all. At least with Sinners, they kind of hit it a little bit. Not to me. When you see the trailers, you already know what you're gonna you already know what you're expecting with that one. But with Pelion, it's like in your face what this movie is about. And I'm gonna make another uh prediction. Um, so we have Sinners with the most nominated Oscar nominated movie of all time, and so I'm assuming Pelion will be for next year's Oscars. My prediction, it won't be, it won't have all those Oscar nominations that Sinners did, but my prediction is, it'll probably. I'm sure there's a category for the most romantic movie, of the year. That one will be in there. Not sure if it's gonna win. Would not be surprised if it win. It probably will win, honestly. And I'm not sure if there is a nomination or an award for best kiss, but that movie is going to win it. That movie, Pelion, best kiss scene, whatever they call it in Oscar nominated shit. It'll be Skarsgård and his little twink, the kid from Harry Potter, Harry Potter's cousin, Dudley, I think, yeah, Dudley, Skinny Dudley. Um, it's gonna be between those two, and then whether it's a fuck scene, which looks like there's a lot of fuck scenes in there, for whatever reason, and that movie will win. It's gonna win most romantic scene, most kiss, best kiss, whatever the hell that they call that award. It will win that award. I guarantee that. I was talking about the ice storm at the beginning here in Texas, um, and I have to go, a random little conspiracy theory. That one of the theories about why the weather is, acting like it has been the last decade or whatever, is that the poles are shifting, and when the poles shift, which they are shifting, and that's not a conspiracy, um, but the Earth has been on a tilted axis for a while. I think is what the consensus is. And if there was a chart or a graph I saw, I'll have to post it somewhere, but it was showing the back when they first tracked the true north for the North Pole back in the 1800s or whatever. It was like here, here, and then over the years they kept tracking it however they did that back in the day. But they'd be like here, here every other decade, and then the amount that it's moving has been growing as far as where the pole is, the true North Pole, and then it's trying to go back to where it's at, where it's supposed to be at apparently, which would mean that the Earth is going back to, I guess, where it's meant to be as far as where true north and true south the poles are supposed to be, which would you know drastically change the way that the Earth is. So that would amplify the storms apparently. So my little conspiracy was with the ice storms today, which is probably not true, but what if the poles they already shifted, and that's why the whole country has just become covered basically with ice and snow all at once, and they've just been hiding it or whatever. Um, and I'm saying this because I kept watching the weather forecasts and whatever, and they changed like always. But it wasn't supposed to snow like it was supposed to snow here up until it was supposed to be yesterday and when it stopped, but it just kept coming. And my little conspiracy was, what if they already know that the poles are shifting, but they just basically made it to where the radars and everything else aren't actually showing predicting the true forecast because it's already in place. We're already being iced over, and that's a far fetched conspiracy. But I thought it was kind of funny. In my own mind, and I'm sure that there's already people that think something crazier than that. They probably they don't even think they believe it. I like thinking outside the box and thinking about random shit like that for fun. It keeps me entertained. But that would be crazy if they were just lying nonstop about the weather patterns and the the weather forecast in general, and it's just like, oh well, it's supposed to be for 2 days, but it's gonna turn into a week now. It's just nonstop snowing and icing over the country for a full week, and that would be fucking crazy if that happened. If that actually happened, that would be the end of this country as far as I guess everything really, because the country already has a problem with keeping the grid going as it is with all the data centers and whatever else that's sucking the power from it. And when you have a bunch of people, all using it at once to, because they're all at home, which is why they want this anyways. But they're all using it to heat their houses, to keep the houses warm, making the units on the outside units have to run harder because they don't operate optimally. Optimally, heat pumps, which is not well. Okay, let's get that in there. Uh, the last administration was which they're efficient, but they're really pushing for heat pumps in all of the units. That was like the most efficient way to heat the house. To heat your wherever you live at. But heat pumps units, AC units, whatever HVAC units don't operate optimally. Below 30 degrees, I believe. And the heat pumps can freeze over, whatever else, lock up, and they're sucking way more power than they would when the temperatures are like they're here. They're like in the teens right now, but the feel like temperature because of the wind coming from the north is making it to where it's like negative. It feels like it's -2 outside, which is crazy for Texas. So you've got all these people, in their houses, most likely not keeping it at a reasonable temperature. Like my house is at 68, um, and I would be fine with it at 65, really. But I don't want it to struggle I don't want it to get iced over. So I'll once it gets to, I'll turn it up to 70, and then I'll turn it off and let it go back down to like 65. And I'll just keep doing that because I don't want to run all the whole time either. That's the main issue with that. Because I do have an efficiency bone in my body to where, for one, I'm just cheap, but the other one is, if we're all supposed to be, we're all in this together. We're all supposed to be contributing to keep the grid going and not all just sucking power from it nonstop, which data centers do that as it is. But if we want to keep it going, we should at least be reasonable with what we are powering. And the people that do have to go to work in this shit, like we're not used to driving in this kind of weather. The roads in my town are iced over. The main, not the main roads, but the side roads around the downtown area, around the city, they're not drivable for most people. The main vehicles I've seen are all-wheel drives and four-wheel drives. Those vehicles have not had any problems that I've seen. I'm sure that there's wrecks, but I haven't seen any issues with them driving around. But they're driving on like 2 or 3 inches of snow, and below that is just pure ice. That's what came first. It just rained for a while, and then it just got covered up with sleet. It all froze over. Then the snow came in. So the snow was giving at least some traction to these vehicles. But when the sun hits all that shit and it melts it and then freezes back over because the temperatures aren't supposed to get above 30 for another week at least, it's just going to be icy roads for at least a week down here. And there's people that are still having to go to, you know, fast food jobs, restaurant jobs, Walmart, what they called essential workers back in 20, well, not the fast food workers, but Walmart, places where people get groceries and stuff like that. Those people should be paid, some kind of hazard pay for having to drive and that stuff. And I mean, if you're putting your life at risk to go make $12 an hour, is that worth it? No, it's not. It's not worth it at all. I mean, they even shut down all of the door dashing. They shut that all of it's shut down in North Texas. I'm not sure about down south, but all of North Texas, it's been shut down for the door dashers. I'm sure for Uber Eats too. But there is the package delivery stuff that people do on the side. That looks like it's been open still doing that because those stores are still open. Which package delivery just seems like it's one of those things that's just never it's never gonna go away, especially here in America. People just have everything just shipped to their house, delivered to their house, and there's so many deliveries happening 24 hours a day that the companies themselves, Amazon, Walmart, all the big daddies within that group, the delivery people, well, then UPS, USPS, they're having to basically do third party delivery, I guess, companies that allow people, just whoever, as long as they pass the background check, to go do it for them instead of having their workers, their delivery drivers, do it themselves because they can't even keep up with the amount of deliveries, the amount of packages that people are getting delivered to their houses. And I was looking today at some of the jobs for delivering stuff, and some of them were, I don't know if it's because of the weather or not, but I mean, like Tractor Supply was like $60 to deliver 3 bags of feed, so 150 pounds, deliver it 20 miles, which is bonkers. And I was like, I, I would risk, I would, I would risk death for the $60 because it's simple. This package delivery stuff is so easy. It's not worth death, but it's pretty good money if you have a vehicle to do it right now in this weather. But America just seems like it's turning into a delivery economy, and I'm not even sure what the hell most people do. I mean, most people are doing, I guess, still working from home, as it is what it seems like, and they still have tons of money to spend. And it just, like I said earlier, it just seems like it's a mirage. It's just all. It just doesn't make any sense to me anymore as far as money. With how much we spend as a government and how much we send away to other countries when we have so many problems in this our own country, that we can still find billions of dollars to send to people, to countries overseas, to people we will never meet, to fix their issues, whether whether it's to fix them or start issues, like start wars. Um, it just seems retarded. That's like the best word to describe it. So here's to another anxiety hour rant with hookah. Uh, I'll probably do more, in the future, whether or not people listen to them or not. It'll just be for my predictions to be in the ether, so I can go back and say, "Hey, look, I said this. I said this on my podcast. Nobody watched." So yeah, if you enjoy it, then give it a like, a share, follow me. Most people don't follow, so just do it. Thanks.